we die, we die. If we die, we die.
Welcome back to Big Red Radio. This is Bet the Mortgage. We are 26-16 on the year. Last week, we each went 1-2 with our picks. So my record is 14-7. Zach's is now 12-9. So we have our picks. I feel really good about my picks. I've already bet on them. I bet on them right when I decided what they were going to be. Zach, you got anything before we get straight into it?
Nope.
All right, so my first pick was Kentucky -3 over Mississippi State. Kentucky is a pretty good team. They're not bad. They're not very good, but Mississippi State, horrible. So Kentucky winning by 3. I think their running game is going to get going, and I think Devin Leary is going to do enough to cover the spread. I would take the spread up to probably -7.
Yeah. My first one is Oklahoma -6 versus Oklahoma State. This is going to sound a little weird, but I feel like this is a trap game for Oklahoma State. So if you look at Oklahoma State's start of the year, they lose to South Alabama and they lose to a bad Iowa State team. Now, since then, came out, they beat a good K-State team. They beat a Kansas team, just beat Oklahoma. They beat West Virginia, and they stomp Cincinnati. You look at Oklahoma. Oklahoma started really, really good. They had a huge win against Texas, and then they come out and drop the ball against Kansas. But the thing is, Oklahoma State's riding a really high right now. Oklahoma is at their lowest, but I just think Oklahoma – I still think Oklahoma is a very, very good team. I think Dylan Gabriel is a really good quarterback. I think they win this game by anywhere from 14 to 20 points. Oklahoma does. I don't think Oklahoma State has the defense. I mean, you look at like the scores, right? They gave up 34 to Iowa State. They gave up 21 to Kansas State. They gave up 32 to Kansas and 34 to West Virginia. If you're doing against those guys, what are you going to do when Dylan Gabriel comes out and starts playing football all over you? I also don't think they've played a defense like Oklahoma's yet. I know for sure Kansas doesn't have it. I know Iowa State definitely doesn't have it. West Virginia doesn't have it. Kansas State or Cincinnati. And, I mean, they only scored 7 against South Alabama. That's another one. You give up 33 to South Alabama. I just don't think matchup-wise this is looking good for Oklahoma State. And I don't know why they're ranked in the college football playoff either. I think that's about as fraudulent as it gets.
Yeah, I could definitely – I'm not going to be surprised if Oklahoma State wins this weekend at all. My next pick is Oregon State over Colorado. Sorry, Oregon State -13 over Colorado. I think these are two different tiers of Pac-12 teams. I think the top tier is like Washington, Oregon. The next tier, Arizona, Oregon State, USC, UCLA. The next tier is probably like Colorado, Stanford, Cal. There's definitely some other teams that I missed up there, but I just think that's the framework. Oregon State has the defense to slow down Colorado, and as we've seen, Colorado's not stopping or slowing down anybody with their defense. I think Shedeur gets sacked a lot in this game. Oregon State might be the best defense. Well, probably the second best defense that Colorado's played besides Oregon, obviously. So -13, this is close for me, but I think Oregon State definitely covers. I mean, last week, UCLA, who's not as good as Oregon State, beat them by 12, I think, with their quarterback, who UCLA's got a whole different thing of problems going on. But I think Oregon State's just better. I just think Colorado's not ready for this moment, so 13 points is pretty easy for me.
Yeah, mine is Washington -3.5 versus USC. Washington had a little bit of a down week last week. Arizona State, correct, is who they played, if I remember right. I believe that was in your
Which one?
in your lines.
Washington played. They played Arizona State 2 weeks ago. Last week they
had a bye.
Yeah, they might have been off. They might. No, they
So
played. I think they played Stanford. I think they played Stanford last week.
Anyways, Washington obviously has not looked, which I think they killed Stanford, but against Arizona State, right? Didn't look great. I think we all know that USC is not not the team that we thought they were coming into the year. This USC defense is right up there with Colorado. It's bad. It's bad, bad. And I think Washington runs the score up on USC. And this Washington defense is a good defense. I mean, it's good. It may not be like Oregon level defense. It may not even be Oregon State level defense, but I think if you're ranking in the Pac-12, you can put them at 2 or 3 as far as defensively. And Caleb Williams, Utah. Okay, yeah, never mind. Utah has a very good defense. Caleb Williams is a very good quarterback, but he can only do so much.
Yeah,
and he doesn't have the supporting cast to beat a team like Washington. Washington is still a playoff contender for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. But that's another game. I would not be surprised if USC won that game. Like you can never count. Never count out Caleb Williams.
I understand that, but he can only do so much.
Yeah,
and he carried the team when they play like Arizona, Colorado. But when you're playing a team like Washington, it's Washington's a team where you do have to rely on your defense at some points. When you're playing Colorado and Arizona, you don't really need to rely on your defense because Caleb Williams on those defense can just like go down and score at will. Against Washington, he's not going to be able to. And so you have to rely on your defense at times, and they can't because that USC defense it's terrible. It's incompetent.
Yeah. So my last bet, this is one of the craziest lines I saw all week. This was my third pick because it's so weird. It's like, what does Vegas know? It's like one of those, but Houston +4 against Baylor. Like Baylor is bad. Baylor is horrible. I have no idea why they're favored at all in this game, let alone by 4 points. Houston hasn't been great either, but they've been much better than Baylor.
So would you, if we're looking strictly, people putting money on these games, people wanting to win money, would you go and say take the Houston money line here? Because there's definitely more money in
there. Well, yeah, there's more money, but you got to play the numbers a little bit. So, like, I think Houston wins this game, but also it could come down to a last second. It could come down to a last second field goal, and Baylor could win it, and they would still cover. So I'm just trying to give the people the best chance to win money.
That's fair. But I just think like on lines like that, like one of my lines that I had, I didn't pick it, but I throw like 6 or 7 lines out there, and then I pick the top 3. One of them I had is Kansas +2.5 versus Iowa State. I think if you're taking a +2.5, you might as well take the money line.
Yeah, with because like that,
you're taking +2.5. That's minus probably 110, 109. Take the money line, they're probably sitting at like +150, +200, right. And so you're just making way more money on it. But anyways, my final line: Illinois versus Minnesota under 43. Told you this last week, guys. The way I look at over/under lines is I pretty much take the score and I split it in half. And so, or I take the line and I split it in half and I give each team a score. So could I see Minnesota winning this game 22-21? No, is the answer to that. I think Minnesota will win this game, but I think it's going to look almost identical to when Nebraska played Illinois. It's going to be 20-7 or 20-10. There's no way both teams are scoring over 20 points. If it's a close game, it's going to be like a 15-13 game.
Yeah.
A 15-14 game. Like it's not going to be no way both teams score over 20 points in this game. It's Big Ten West. Now it's not as bad as Iowa versus Northwestern. Looking at an over/under line that started out under 30.
Is it still?
It's at 31.
Oh, it is.
It's 31. At 31 right now. I would not hate to take that line. No. But that's a little too low for me to mess with. So
yeah. That's what I was going to ask. I was going to ask what in a bonus kind of bet that wouldn't affect our record. Do you think if this line was set at 25, Iowa Northwestern, what would you take?
No. 25, 15-10. Could I see it being a 13-12 win? Yes. Yeah, I could. Could I see it being a Could I see it being a 15-13 win? I could. And so no.
Does Iowa score 20
I take
points
the
in this
over.
game? Does Iowa score
No.
20 points? Does Northwestern
No,
score 20
I'd be
points?
surprised if Iowa has over 40 passing yards.
Yeah.
In this game. Northwestern
Over
also does
under.
not score over 20 points.
Here, let's listen to this. Over under Cooper DeJean punt return touchdowns. Line is set at half.
Yeah, I think that's a great line. I mean, I do.
I'm taking the over.
Yeah, I mean he's had 3 walk-offs, two on the books, but you take that Minnesota one, he's got 3. If any Iowa fans are watching this, which I know you are, because I know exactly who you are, listen, you had the ball on the 40 going in with like 2 minutes left, and you were down by 2. All right. Let's not act like you can't go to the 25 and drill a field goal to win it. You needed 15 yards. You needed 15 yards in 2 minutes, and you couldn't get it. Okay. Let's not act like that call took you out of the game.
I think let's see.
It may have been a rough call. But don't act like that call took you out of the game because you had a shot. If you're asking for like bonus bets, I'll just rattle off a few that I really like. Penn State -10 versus Maryland. Maryland is not proven. Penn State is. They're going to win this game by 21. Kansas +2.5 versus Iowa State. Jason Bean's going to have a track meet on Iowa State and Jack Trice. I mean, that guy is freaking fast. I mean, we saw against Oklahoma. That guy is fast. I think you could take the Kansas money line here. UCLA -2.5 versus Arizona. I think UCLA is just a better team. I think Arizona's on the rise up. I think UCLA is a little more proven with Chip Kelly underneath coaching them. And then just like we said, Iowa versus Northwestern under 31. I take that game because now
it's at 30.5 now.
Okay, so if we're looking at 15-15, maybe not. I think if it's at 30.5, I stay away. But if it's 31, I mean, I don't see it being 15-16. I mean, that's a shootout. That's a shootout. We're not looking for a shootout.
Right.
That's a shootout. Okay. But yeah, just a few lines that I have on there as well. Honestly, if I were to take any off these bonus, it'd be Penn State -10 versus Maryland. I think that's a really good line. I probably should have taken in my bets, but it is what it is.
Yeah. So
that's going to do it for this week. We'll be back next week.
Yeah, hopefully with a better record going into it. Vegas is starting to figure it out, so it's harder to outsmart them, but we're still looking pretty good. Way over 500, 10 games over 500 right now, so we're looking good there. But yeah, make sure you follow all the socials linked in the description, and we will see you guys next week.
If we die, we die! If we die, we die!